As we close the programme tonight, I have some very sad news to share with you all.
Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we're discussing times when our favourite anchors got so emotional they were unable to hold back tears.
We all along North are absolutely devastated to give you this news.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Hearing of Prince Philip's passing.
We are interrupting our normal programmes to bring you an important announcement.
Originally the Prince of Greece and Denmark, Philip fell head over heels for Elizabeth II. This made him better known as the British Royal Consort, a role he held from 1952 until he died in 2021. Just before his 100th birthday, Philip passed away peacefully of natural causes.
A short while ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of His Royal Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh.
Martine Croxall was tasked with announcing his passing on the BBC, interrupting broadcasts across the nation. Throughout her entire announcement, her voice trembles and she struggles to hold back tears. Goes to show just how professional Croxall is, who powers on despite her emotions.
His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle.
Fiona Bruce loses a colleague. Question Time is recorded only a few hours before it airs, making it almost live. It's been hosted by Fiona Bruce since 2019, but has been running since 1979. One producer, Alison Fuller, spent 27 years working on the show, joining the series in 1998. It came as quite a shock when she suddenly died in February 2025.
I just want to say before we go that very sadly last week we lost a well-loved oh my gosh, I'm going to go as well.
While she wasn't well known to viewers, she was to her team. This meant it was remarkably difficult for host Bruce to announce her tragic passing, who applauded her contributions to the show while fighting to hold back tears.
So, I just want to say, send my love to Ali's family. And also, in terms of the programme tonight, thank you all so much for coming.
Dark news on Radio 4. The few of us who weren't around for the COVID pandemic are likely too young to be on YouTube. One of the largest industries that took a hit was the tourism industry. In the Indonesian island of Bali, things got particularly dire, since their economy relies almost entirely on visitors. In March 2020, before lockdown had hit hard, one British tourist's life was taken by coronavirus in Bali.
She said that she loved me.
When the news came to BBC Radio 4, presenter Diana Speed was overwhelmed with emotions.
A Highland hotel, which has been widely criticised for sacking its staff and ordering them to leave the premises immediately, has blamed an administrative error.
Listeners appreciated how human her reaction felt, as opposed to the cold, stoic approach which reporters often favour.
Administrative error. Excuse me. The owners of the Coilenbridge Hotel issued dismissal notices on Thursday to more than a dozen workers who live at the complex near Aviemore.
Alistair Stewart steps down. Alistair Stewart was one of the primary ITV newsreaders for over 35 years, making him the longest man in Britain to be a newsreader. After a long career, he left ITV News in 2020, only 3 years before his eventual retirement. It ended because of a Twitter debate, which he quoted Shakespeare in a manner considered racist.
ITV News broadcaster Alistair Stewart is stepping down from presenting duties after he made errors of judgment on social media.
Regardless of the scandal, his co-worker Mary Nightingale was heartbroken over losing such an old colleague. Stewart reported on major events like the Challenger disaster and the Berlin Wall's fall, making his news career one of the most significant in British history.
News thanked Alistair for his commitment to delivering high-quality broadcast news for many years.
Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe's release. For those unaware, Ratcliffe is an Iranian-British citizen who spent 6 years locked up in Iran. In 2016, she was found guilty of attempting to overthrow Iran's government. According to others, she was arrested as a political message due to an old dispute between the two nations. After Britain forwarded Iran almost £400 million, she regained her freedom, then immediately returned to the UK. Getting her release was a long, hard fight, so much so that it caused presenter Joanna Gosling to choke up.
Two detained British Iranians, Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe and Anousheh Ashuri, heading to this is a moving moment because these are people who have been detained for some time.
When Ratcliffe finally told her husband she was coming home, she heartwarmingly asked him to make a cup of tea for her when she arrived.
Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe has been held for nearly 6 years in Iran, and her husband has worked tirelessly.
Rob Rinda's interview with a teenager. You probably know him better as Judge Rinda than by his real name, Robert Michael Rinda, unless you're a fan of Good Morning Britain, which he's been hosting since 2022. This role shows a more human side to him, rather than just his judge persona.
Liz Hatton was delighted to be invited to Windsor Castle earlier this week.
One instance came in 2024 when he had a deeply tragic conversation with Liz Hatton, terminally ill teenager. Hatton spent the last few months of her life making tons of new memories, including meeting the Prince and Princess of Wales. It's a tale as inspiring as it is tragic, which brought Rinda to tears.
Everything from the final costume and wig finishes to the cast itself. So Liz, you reckon you're up for it?
That's amazing, right? Are you up for it?
Hatton sadly passed away a couple of months after the interview due to an extremely rare form of cancer, making the interview even more sorrowful in hindsight.
Thank you so much. Just brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Have a great day. Have a really great day.
Probably a lie down as well after all of that. Busy week.
Clive Myrie on Hugh Edwards.
Good evening. He is one of the most recognisable faces on British television.
You're probably already familiar with the Hugh Edwards scandal, resulting in him being sentenced to 6 months in prison. It started in the 2020s, when investigations found he was harbouring indecent images of children. Clive Myrie was the reporter tasked with breaking this news, which proved to be a difficult task for him. He looks deeply hurt by the news, clearly having a hard time holding back tears.
Say that once well enough, he intends to respond to the stories that have been published.
Myrie and Edwards hosted the BBC News at 10 together for a brief period before his fall from grace. It's not Myrie's only time crying live. A year earlier, he shed a tear while reporting on the Ukraine war.
First of our reports tonight, our international correspondent Ola Gearin has the very latest.
Southport reaction.
Giving us the detail of what's happening. I've just got to warn you, what I'm about to relay to you is really distressing.
In 2024, the deeply tragic Southport stabbings caused a huge wave of protests in the summer. It was a horrific incident, with 3 children dying and 10 people being injured. Details of the attack were extremely disturbing, sounding like something out of a horror story.
Police arrived at the scene to find people in a state of panic. Oh, just take a breath after that.
CCTV footage was shown in the trial, which caused many attendees to break into tears. The news came as such a shock, causing a Sky News reporter to begin sobbing live on TV.
Right, Tobin, sorry, it's just so distressing, isn't it? It really is. Look, we're here for those girls and the families.
Now, as viewers are probably aware, the perpetrator has been sentenced to life imprisonment. Louise Priest's final night. As you can probably tell, BBC Look East provides regional news for Eastern England. If you're from this area, there's a chance you're familiar with Louise Priest. For almost 40 years, she was one of the lead presenters for Look East. Her long career came to an end in 2023, partly because of the impact 4am starts had had on her. During her monumentally long career, she saw major changes in the industry, alongside becoming a much-loved figure in the East.
I'd just like to say how much I've enjoyed bringing the news to you. Also going to do this.
As such, she felt after 4 decades, it was her time to call it quits, which became quite an emotional task for Priest.
Thank you for keeping me company over the years.
Nick Owen's MBE Award. Our next entry is more wholesome than the rest, since it's tears of joy we got to see. Nick Owen has presented a plethora of programmes, like The Breakfast Show, Good Morning Britain, in the 80s. After a long and varied career, which made him into a household name, he was awarded an MBE by the King in 2024.
Has it sunk in yet, Nick? Congratulations.
Well, not really, no.
Naturally, the award justified getting him on air for a heartfelt tribute. Things got a bit too emotional for Owen after such overwhelming positivity, causing him to start tearing up on screen.
And finally, how about this one from a certain Timothy Owen? Very proud of you, Dad.
It's a wonderfully heartwarming moment, proving Owen is more than deserving of the award.
We're all so proud of you as well. You're part of our family at the BBC too.
The Queen's passing.
And I'm extremely sorry to have to bring you the exceptionally sad news that Her Majesty the Queen has died.
The passing of Queen Elizabeth II shook countless people throughout the nation, but not everyone had to try and hide their emotions on live television. For Talk TV, it was Vanessa Phelps who had to deliver the news, and that was no easy feat.
What sad news. I'm joined in the studio by my colleague, Mike Graham. Gosh, it's overwhelming to have to break the news.
Having served the country for so many years, many members of the British public were rightfully heartbroken by her passing, and Phelps, despite feeling this emotional weight, still managed to present the news with dignity. Mike Graham later joined the feed and was visibly in a state too.
It's tough.
It is. It really is very, very tough indeed.
Climate crisis.
The weather here and the fact that the ice is melting disrupts the jet stream and it changes the weather in the UK.
Climate change is a very real predicament that seemingly few corporations are willing to take action against. GMB's weather reporter Laura Tobin flew to Norway to see firsthand the worrying effects of the climate crisis.
Inspiring, breathtaking and devastating. And I came here, I've been away from Charlotte for 6 days.
She noted that she had never been away from her daughter this long, and even showed the audience at home a drawing she was asked to give to a polar bear while she was there.
My little Charlotte drew this picture of a polar bear, and she asked me to give it to the polar bear. I'm obviously not, because that's very dangerous. But, if I were to come here when she's my age, there potentially won't be polar bears in Svalbard.
It was this combination of seeing the impact of rising temperatures and missing her daughter that caused Tobin to break down in tears.
Everyone making a difference, and everyone working together and not pointing fingers.
Ice Lake tragedy. In December 2022, one news story proved to be too much for the BBC's Joanna Gosling. As she spoke about the tragic news of 3 children perishing after falling through an iced lake in Solihull, Gosling couldn't hide her emotions. She soon began choking up reading the report and had to pause to compose herself before apologising to viewers, which wasn't necessary.
Reports the emergency crews got there incredibly quickly, within 7 minutes. But very sadly, we have heard that 3 of those boys have died.
Many viewers that saw the clip praised Gosling for getting through the heartbreaking segment. Goodbyes.
Thank you for keeping me company over the years.
Leaving a job behind can be an emotional task, but most people don't have to say goodbye to an entire nation.
Now, it is just about time for me to say goodbye for the last time. I'm signing off after 23 years at BBC News.
While many presenters have given a brief and stoic sign-off, Joanna Gosling gave one that spoke directly from the heart. She was grateful for her time spent reading the news and thanked both her colleagues as well as those watching at home.
Is why I came into journalism, to give a voice, lend an ear, and shine a light.
While Gosling is still in the public eye as a radio host, leaving BBC News after 25 years filled her with tears of both joy and sadness.
Lucky me to have had this great job that's never felt like a job. Thank you for having me.
Fishmongers Hall attack. The horrific events of 2019's Fishmongers Hall attack resulted in 2 people losing their lives. When it came time for newsreader Jane Hill to read out the juror's statement during the inquest, it clearly affected her deeply.
The jury would like to send their heartfelt condolences to the families of Saskia and Jack and all who love and miss these 2 wonderful people.
These 2 very young people's lives being taken by the attacker was emotionally devastating, and the quivering in Hill's voice, as well as her long pauses, portrayed that.
They touch the lives of so many. And we want to convey to the families how seriously we've taken our responsibility. I'm so sorry, it is a very, very emotional statement.
Learning of how good-natured the 2 victims were, both just in their early 20s, clearly resonated with Hill in this emotional clip. A moving vigil.
Last night it was incredibly busy. There were vigils here, there were vigils at the Eiffel Tower.
The 2015 attack in Paris, France resulted in hundreds of injuries and fatalities. This of course left the country in mourning. For BBC News, reporter Graeme Satchel was in the capital, speaking outside a memorial for the victims. He talked about the hope the community had developed due to the moving tributes and vigils across the city.
The Eiffel Tower was lit up in red, white and blue, which I think is a sign of hope. Sorry.
With that, a wave of emotion enveloped him. Immediately, Satchel apologised for his understandable reaction as he held back tears.
There is certainly hope here in Paris anyway, but that is back to you.
Graham, thank you very much indeed.
Struggling to continue, he passed it back to the studio before walking off-screen. Former home. 2022 saw Ukraine being attacked by Russia, and though the images of the devastation affected British viewers at home, one particular journalist had a far more personal attachment to the tragedies.
I've just got a message from my mom. Finally, I couldn't reach her.
She is in Kiev itself. Yeah, she's been taking shelter with your family.
She's been taking shelter. She's hiding in the basement.
Ukrainian journalist Olga Malchesca sat with Karen Gioni to commemorate the footage seen from Kiev.
Actually, at 3 a.m. London time, I would find out that actually my home is bombed.
What made this so hard for Olga was that she lived in Kiev growing up, and that the images were of the building she lived in with her family.
And you're talking about that actual building?
Yeah, and this actual building is my home.
Some did criticise Gioni's line of questioning at the visibly distraught journalist, but she still managed to answer them with grace.
Olga, we really appreciate what it must be like for you to talk about this.
I just can't link in my head, that what I'm seeing is actually somewhere where I used to be.
A personal experience.
I was getting into my car and noticed there was some really nasty, vile language coming out from an individual against what appeared to be a student, an Asian student.
It's not often we get personal accounts on the news, but that's what happened on BBC News in 2016. Journalist Trisha Dulu came onto the show and sat down to talk about the fallout of Brexit. She spoke about a horrible interaction she and someone else had had, where they were on the receiving end of some horrific, racially charged language from a stranger on the street.
You're not supposed to be... Oh gosh, yeah, definitely.
Have you ever had that before?
Never. Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm actually shaken as well to hear it.
The incident had clearly left her shaken, as just recalling what happened left her visibly upset. She said she had rarely been treated with such malice, and really, in this day and age, it should not be happening at all.
I don't like using the N-word, and I haven't heard it directly to me, but it was shocking.
Interviewing a hero.
We're going to take you back to another story that we've been reporting on this morning, a horrific accident which none of us can really comprehend.
While Good Morning Britain has been criticised for its reporting over the years, one moment that was unquestionably genuine was when Susanna Reid spoke to a man who risked his own life to save a baby from a submerged vehicle. Sadly, out of the 5 people in the vehicle, the baby was the only one who was rescued.
Unimaginable. I'm speechless. The situation is awful that you faced. And you're an absolute hero for rescuing that baby.
You are, thank you.
And I know you're going to meet Mum later on today.
While speaking to this hero, David Walsh, Susanna was overcome with emotion and had trouble finishing her questions.
I know that you're feeling a slight sense of guilt that you couldn't save the others, but you saved a baby's life.
It was up to Piers Morgan to take over the interview while Susanna composed herself. The passing of George Alagaya.
Heartbreaking news for the BBC and the wider world of broadcast journalism. George Alagaya, one of our most highly respected and much-loved presenters, has died.
While many of the previous entries covered nationwide tragedies, this one was much more personal for several of the presenters at BBC News. George Alagaya was a prolific figure in the news industry, even being awarded an OBE for his work.
Spirit, strength and courage in the later years of his life are something his family can be so proud of. Journalism has lost a giant.
But more than that, George was said to be a wonderful human being, as is evident by the heartwarming messages from his peers following his passing at the age of 67.
We've learnt that from his agent. Apologies for the emotion in my voice. He was so loved in our newsroom.
His impact was clearly felt by the team, many of whom were brought to tears when reporting his death in 2023. What's the most memorable thing you've seen a newsreader do live on TV? Whether that's crying or something completely different? Let us know in the comments.